Hey friends, thank you for joining me today. Forgive me while I still get the rest of my paints put out on my palette. I think I've got everything. Well, let's put a little bit of this Terra Verte Earth Green. I take it. Verte Green, Terra Earth. I take it that's Earth Green by Winton. Let me talk to you while I paint. I've entitled this broadcast Growing Pains, because that's exactly what I'm in the middle of. Blah. Growing pains hurt. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Now, all of us who are painters, beginners or advanced, we always have the occasional painting that I call a problem child. We all have the occasional painting that doesn't go very well. And in fact, I've got one of those here. Let me show it to you. This is not what I'm talking about today. Here's a problem child painting. Okay. I started this in a painting class that I was teaching as a demo. A year and a half or so ago maybe, and it's been leaning up in my studio ever since. I actually reworked a bunch of it last week. This is the nature of a problem child. You keep reworking it, and it keeps not quite working. I'll come back to that later. That's a different subject. That's when you just have the odd painting that just, and this is where and unfortunately I'm going to miss my painters group tomorrow night. This is exactly why I love having a painters group, because I'm going to take this there and say, okay, something's not working here. I'm not sure what it is, and so on. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be here tomorrow night, so that won't happen. But the problem child is not what I'm talking about. I'm in a season, and I think I've been here for about a week and a half maybe, which in my career is quite a long time. 6, 7 paintings. I'm at a new level of discontent. Now, let me, and I know I'm not painting yet, I'm just talking. But I need to make this very clear. I'll be blunt, there are many of you, if you're an art student or a wannabe painter, an entry-level painter, an emerging painter, student painter, whatever you want to call it, you're perhaps you could say you're not quite where I am in your career. You're not a full-time artist making a living at it. Okay, you're emerging. There are many of you who beat yourselves up. You don't have healthy internal talk. The stuff that comes out of you, whether inside your mind or out of your mouth, is stuff like, "Oh, I'm just not very good. I'm just never going to make it. I'm just not good at that. I'm just not." Okay, that kind of stuff. That describes many of you, because it describes many, many, many artists. I'm not talking about that. That's an issue. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. You need some healing. I'm being really blunt here this morning. You need to learn. Either in a counseling setting or a healthy spiritual setting, or Rhonda Byrne, The Secret. I don't know but you need to learn how to take care of your soul and stop that negative talk. And I hear it all the time, hear it and see it all the time in my students and in my painters groups. So I know it's out there. I know it's widespread. It's part of the human condition. We all gripe and complain about how we're not good at stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about, I'm generally happy with my artwork, my career, my growth curve. But every once in a while, and I believe that this season of discontent is an antecedent, comes right before I'm about to launch to another level. I've been at a plateau for a while in the quality of my work, but right now I'm quite dissatisfied with the quality of my work. And if I knew what was wrong, I would fix it. Are you with me? That's part of the pain. It's like, ugh. And I've got 4 paintings here this morning. Are they all up here? Yeah, here they are. That one, I'll show them to you if you know, I'm going to work on all 4 of them. This is one. Did this last Thursday. Not very happy with it. But it's not just this. I'm not happy with the general trajectory of my improvement and so forth. I'm just not happy. Now again, this isn't because I have internal bad talk. I don't. I'm usually quite happy with myself. And you should be happy with yourself. You understand? I'm not beating myself up. That's not my problem. I usually like what I do. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm quite happy with my work. But once in a while, this is one of those once in a whiles, I'm not happy with my work. What do you do then? Well, words like soul searching come to mind. Get on your computer, get on your phone, just start looking at really good artwork. Like go to Oil Painters of America or Portrait Society of America. Don't go to Tumblr, don't go to Pinterest, don't go to DeviantArt. Why? Because you see all kinds of really poor art. You see some good, but really bad. You don't need, when you're in this moment of, I'm irritated with, I'm not good enough, I need to get better. One of the things you do is you look at good art, really good art. Oil Painters of America. Art Renewal Center, ARC, Art Renewal Center. And you grab a magazine, a Plein Air magazine, American Art Collector. Not one of the magazines that has all the ugly, ugly, ugly modern stuff. That's not what you need, unless that's what you're trying to do, then go for it. Another thing you can do, and this is literally, yesterday morning, I woke up at 6 o'clock, which is early for me, and just irritated by this. Just like, I'm not happy with where I'm at. Forgive the grammar, with where I'm at. So another thing you can do, and this is what I did, so I got up yesterday morning, and this is how far I am in Richard Schmid Expanded Edition, everything I know about Alla Prima 2, everything I know about painting and more. And I'm not just reading this book. You can tell by my notes and my highlights. I'm going to go back. Okay, you can tell by my notes, my highlights, that I am studying this book. I'm devouring this book. So Richard Schmid is one of my favorite living painters. And so that's one of the things you do. Go back to studying. That's one book. Here's another one. One generation earlier, John F. Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. Unfortunately, this is printed in black and white. All the images in this book are black and white, but you can see his artwork in color on the internet. Again, so one of the things you do is, dang it, study. I don't like studying. I don't like book learning. I've done plenty of it. I have a master's degree that took me 11 years to earn. Never mind. That's another story. But those are some of the things that I do when you're stuck. And the other thing you do, of course, in this case, in the short term, let's go back and revisit and rework, for me, 4 recent paintings. Okay? This is a commission. I was told what to paint. By my client, I was given this photograph. I went on location. I was there last Wednesday night, by the way, and I barely got started in the painting, and a great big thunderstorm came up, and big gusts of wind, and I had to pack up and come home. So I had to finish this painting in the comfort of my own studio, which, if you've heard me talk before, I don't like the comfort of my own studio. That is to say, I do like it, but it's hard for me to paint. Just hard for me to paint well in a studio. That's not my excuse for why I don't like this painting. No. I can do good paintings in the studio. This at the moment is not one of them. Now, I'm confessing to you, I'm in a difficult spot because I don't know what's wrong with my artwork. Oh, by the way, also this morning, besides reading books, I took my chances. I sent a nice, long, friendly, a little bit of humor, lots of humility. I sent an email to a nationally recognized OPA master. Oil Painters of America has a category called Masters, and they're all good, very good. And I have an outside connection with this man. That's why I send me. So that's another thing you do. I have no idea if he'll respond. I'm inviting him. I said, please, would you just give me some critique? Okay, so after doing all that, after doing all my due diligence, what do you do next? Are you with me? So that's where I'm at right now. I fight, I claw, I scratch, I study, I look at good artwork, I go, and I take my best guess. So this is my best guess. Here's what's wrong with where I'm at in my career right now. In a word, here's a surprise, or not. In a word, I'm too tight. What? Some of you are saying, what? Yep. When I look at Richard Schmid, and when I look at Oil Painters of America, when I look at paintings that I really, really, really like, now, again, I'm trying to absorb what is it that I don't know that Richard Schmid does know. Oh, by the way, when it comes to looking at good examples, I printed these out. This is a part of another story, but why do I print this stuff out? Because these are artists I admire. G. Harvey, Tibor Nagy, Richard Schmid, Eugene Gallienne-Lallouet, 2 pages of him. Jeremy Mann. Man, talk about loose. Okay, I look at these often. They sit right on top of my drawing desk there. I look at them and chew and say, I love his paintings. What does he know that I don't know yet? No, until I can get Jeremy Mann on the phone, or until I can fly out to San Francisco and spend a day with him, which would probably cost. He probably doesn't do that, right? Until I can spend time with him or get him on. All I can do is look and try to absorb. What are the principles? What are the hidden rules? What is it that all of these people know, especially like right now I'm stuck on Jeremy Mann. What is it that he knows that I don't know? Now his technique is different. I don't want to imitate his technique, his style. It's not about style. It's about some universal principles. And in one word, I'm too tight. In 2 words, I don't have enough color breaks. Okay? So let's start with this painting right here, because it's one of the ones from the last few days that I am most irritated with. Not irritated like I'm all down on myself and all that kind of, no. But first of all, I'm going to back up and rely on something that I do know, and I want you to hear this. Okay, this is me with my teacher hat on. So if you're a student, you listen. Anytime you've got a painting and you think the composition is okay, there's not some major, well, let's start here. There's not some major drawing issue. That is 90% of the time with students, that's the problem. There are drawing issues. But if that's not the problem, and that is not the problem here, the drawing is quite close, quite acceptable, believable, realistic, close enough. There's all this jumble of this, a tossed salad of high-rise buildings back here. They all have different vanishing points and so on. That's not the problem. This is okay. Anyway, so it's not the drawing. If it's not the drawing and you don't think it's a composition, listen to me. I've said this for years. 80% of the time, when you got a painting that's just not working, 80% of the time it's a values problem. And 80% of those times, it's a dark values problem. That is to say, not enough dark values. So let me stand back literally from this painting. Oh, by the way, let me make sure I've got the right microphone on here today. Okay, I do. Let me stand back 10 feet from this painting and say, yeah, whoops. You know what? Other than these 2 large dark masses, this is all too uniform. Let me see. I don't know if I can make this work here or not, but let's try it just real quick. Almost. Here's what I want to model for you. If you ever wonder if you have a values problem, okay, you can't see it because my phone is The camera is compensating for the dim light in this room. But in reality, by the way, here, the room is much darker than this camera shows up. And so if you ever wonder if you have a values problem in your painting, turn off all the lights in the room except the light that's coming through the door, say, or a 25-watt light bulb across the room. Make the room quite dark, like I have just done right now, and I've just confirmed to myself that yes, in fact, I have a values problem. Okay, I'm going to turn all the lights back on again. Okay. Whoa. I know you could see it better before that was on, couldn't you? Yeah, that's a much better representation of what my painting actually looks like. But it's because my camera is doing the magic things that cameras do nowadays. It's not because it actually looks better to me to paint. Okay, so it is a values problem. I already know this. This is not me having a growing pains. This is me doing what I already know. I've already said my hunch is, because I can't get Jeremy Mann on the phone or Richard Schmid, I can't attend one of their classes, so I'm left struggling to find out what's wrong, and I think number one is I'm too tight, which I can't fix entirely here, and I don't have enough color breaks, and I'll model that for you. But before that, I suspected that this was the case. I have a values problem, and what that means usually is I have a dark values problem. Again, what that means is I don't have enough darks in the painting. So I am going to go ahead and just take a few minutes to darken these buildings. After all, what I'm trying to portray here, and again, this was not my choice, this is a challenging, what I'm trying to portray here is a part of our city. I'm doing this painting for the people that built this, all of these buildings. Does that make sense to you? I'm doing this painting is a commission for the people who built. So at the moment, I'm just doing pure ultramarine. I started to say it is a challenging view because we're looking straight west. We're looking into the sunset, and this was in fact the request that I had from my client. Now, maybe I should have argued with him a little bit more. I didn't argue at all. Maybe I should have said, well, you know, doing paintings looking straight into the setting sun is usually not that great. I didn't say that. So here I am. I'm going to try to make the best of it. But one of the things I see that I can do is I could darken all these buildings. And I can darken this stuff down here. So again, if you have a painting and if the drawing is okay, you think the composition is okay, but it's just still not working, usually it's a values problem, and usually it's a dark or lack of, you don't have enough darks in your painting, usually. Not always, usually. Okay, now let me stand back and see if that's better. It is better. I'm happy to say. Now, I want to introduce, I don't want it all blue, so I'm picking up now some oxide red. I want it still dark, but I want it warmer, just a little bit warmer. This building here is actually blue in color, so it's okay that particular building comes off quite blue. Yeah, a little bit of violet. And of course, one of the things I like about these big brushes is that they don't make hard edges, so I can't get quite as tight with these messy brushes. Now, some of you maybe are surprised when I say one of my issues is I'm too tight. I almost have to, I am. I almost have to put that in quotes. It's like I'm too tight I feel like in a particular way. And I hope to demonstrate that for you later on in the day. So I have 4 paintings here in my studio today. 4, count them. 4, not counting the old rusty sailboat there. That's 5. I have 4 paintings that I want to fix today. Okay, I'm going to put these brushes down. I'll probably be using those again. And the first thing I'm going to do is, second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and turn some of these lights back on, so to speak. The lights in the windows of these buildings. But I'm going to do that this time by warming them up. That was one of the other issues that I had as I looked at this painting. It's like, ooh, the lights in those distant buildings are too cool, too white. Let's warm them up. So right at the moment, I'm lifting the ultramarine glaze to some degree off the building, off these windows. Does that make sense? Now, a little bit of rag painting. I want the top of this restaurant here is very distinctive and very bright orange. So I want that really to peek through. Then these lights down here, again, those are too cold, too yellow white. So I'm going to orange them up, warm them up a good bit. I think they'll look more like lights coming from a restaurant. Yep. Okay, now down here in the foreground is a field full of people doing exercise, and I just made the field darker. And I think now if I come back with a fingernail and a rag, that I can carve in some light marks here. The idea here is this is a field full of people working out, jazzercise, or I don't mean that technically, not literally the jazzercise, but they were all working out to music, right? So in my painting, I've made them all with their arms raised, just because I felt like that would make it look like they were working out. So I'm okay with that. So it's supposed to be, they're all working out in unison. So most of them, not all of them, most of them have their arms raised up. Okay, happy to say my painting is better already. This does not, I haven't done anything loose. It's a little bit late. But what did I say? Usually it's a values problem. The other thing that I can do next is push the values, which is really contrast the values. Push them away from each other. So when I say 80% of the time it's a values problem, what I really mean is not enough contrast. So 80% of the time it's a dark values, that is to say lack of dark values, but that doesn't just mean you come in and make it darker. It means you also have to come in and make something lighter, usually. So the sky up here, let me see, yeah, okay, so just for starters, I've mixed up pretty much the same color that was already there. I've just mixed up a slightly lighter version of it. I'm going to make it a little bit warmer. Because I want just a little bit more punch. In the contrast. Also, just adding a little bit of light to those spots of light in the windows. Now, most of my hopes for my upcoming season of painting, when I say I need to be looser, there's not a lot I can do on these 4 paintings that are already essentially done. Okay, so I'm not going to come in here and try to do a whole lot of changes to these. It's in moving forward. So yes, I'm very much scratching my head saying, okay, so I need to get looser. Yeah, but how? How do I do that? If anybody's an artist watching me right now, you go, yeah, that's the question. And I'm going to have to try to figure that out by myself, so to speak, as I move forward. I think a big part of this getting looser trajectory, this getting looser goal, ambition that most of us have as painters, most of us say, yeah, I want to be looser. The biggest challenge is coming to the point where you actually literally believe what your words are saying. Because many of us say, yeah, I want to get looser, but we don't want to do what is necessary to get looser. So that's what I'm going to try to grab myself by my bootstraps or grab myself by the throat, whichever word picture you want. And I'm going to try to be forcing myself. I have to step outside my comfort zone. There you go. That's a big part of what we're talking about. You're going to have to step outside your comfort zone to make any significant change in how you paint. Do I hear an amen, anybody? So all I'm doing right now is just tweaking this paint. Now that's pretty. That is really pretty. That's not a word that I usually use in my painting because it's too, it's too sentimental. But sentimental be damned. That's really pretty. Are you with me? Again, with a fingernail and a rag, I'm redoing some of this that lettering up there. The lettering here is supposed to graduate from dark to light. Just the words, the letterings themselves are medium dark to medium light. And I just saw a place where I could soften an edge there. Yeah, there we go. That edge, do you see, these are all steel beams. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm painting without you looking. I'm so sorry. These are steel beams, but you see how soft the edges are, and I'm happy with that. That's not. I'm quite happy with the upper part of this painting. That's not where I needed to be looser. I am so sorry, you guys. When I zoom in and then I forget to zoom back out. My favorite trick. One of these days I'm going to be able to afford an assistant to come and help me do this stuff. We'll talk later about how I'm going to afford such a thing. Because eventually my supporters, my viewers are going to help support me, right? Right. A little bit more highlight down here now. Likewise, I think I'm going to save these brushes with this color on it for use in the future paintings that are coming up here shortly. Okay, put those down. And perhaps, well, no, I want to do 2 more things. One is I want to get the values. First of all, I'm just working on values right now. I did dark and then light, right? So pretty predictable, pretty standard steps in the process. Now, still along the same lines, I'm mixing up a very pale, warm green, very pale, very warm green to do some highlights to push the values down here in the foreground. So I mean, coming down where I already had pale, warm green. But yes, I'm pushing the values, so I'm making it paler still, lighter still. I'm going to zoom in and hope I remember. Hope I remember to zoom back out when I stop working down here. So Nelson, keep that in mind. Okay, and I'm going to stay working down here for just a minute. I want some of the figures, the people down here, to be lighter as well. So let's mix up some even lighter flesh tone than what I had earlier. Now I am conscious, very aware of this as a racially mixed group, so I'm not going to come in here with a very, very pale and make all of these figures light, just a few of them, especially right here in the foreground, as if the lights from the stage, so to speak, were hitting them, which indeed was the case. So just a little bit of sparkle. See that? It's one of my favorite words for this kind of stuff. Now, I'm almost finished. The next thing I'm going to do is start relating to the other. I said there's two things that I see in my paintings right now. When I look at really good painters that I admire, respect, and want to follow, there's two things. One is I'm too tight. The other is not enough broken color. Now there's a real obvious place in this painting for some broken color. I'm nearly finished, and I'm happy to say the painting is noticeably improved. I'm not saying I took it from a from a C- to an A+, but I at least took it from a B- to a B+, A-. It might not be a home run, but it's at least a good stand-up double or triple, if you want a baseball analogy. And again, it's not about me fixing this one painting that I'm concerned about in my career. It's much bigger than that. But again, having refreshed my mind, broken color. Let's talk about what broken color is, because that's one of the things that I think I can improve. Let's take these trees, for instance. This is the most obvious. Broken color, and this is not a Dan Nelsonism. Obviously, I'm telling you, this is a weakness of mine. This is a good old-timey, especially going back to the Impressionists, Monet and company. What color are these trees? Green, correct. But I have just mixed up some dark burgundy, maroon, dirty cranberry. I don't know what color to call it. I don't want to get carried away. There's a little bit over there and a little over here. This is broken color. Now what makes it broken color is it's the same value. I don't want it to look, by the way, I do not want it to look like an apple tree that I've painted apples in. So make sure that I don't get any nice little round blobs here. What makes it broken color is the values that it's. I do broken values, I think, well. It's broken color is one of the elements that I'm missing. So the fact that my burgundy color, now let's come up with another color. And there's not a whole lot. I can do purple and I can do blue. What I just did was closer to purple, so let's move around to closer to the blue end of this spectrum. what makes it a broken color is the fact that the value is, now what I'm doing here I feel like is a little bit contrived, but bear with me. It's the fact that the value, it still looks like a tree, a green tree in fact, even though I'm introducing these foreign colors, if you will, into it. So now I'm doing a blue, and that's about all I can do is toward the red and toward the blue. I can't do green because there's already plenty of green there. But let's now talk about some broken color up here in the buildings, and there I do believe there is room. By the way, I am not unhappy with my general technique, my general approach to painting. I'm not on the verge of abandoning, because I still like what generally speaking, I still like what I do with the layers of transparent acrylic and then transparent oil on top of that. That's not what I feel like is the problem. In fact, part of my problem is that too much of my underpainting gets covered up in the last couple stages. So in fact, that's the one thing I warn my students about all the time when they do my technique is don't cover up too much. And here I am telling you, I think I'm covering up too much. That is it's almost embarrassing. Almost. So again, broken color now. I've mixed up I used the word earlier, cranberry, no, coral color. Where else can I put some of this? That building already had just a hint of that on it, so that made me feel like, and again, I don't know if you can even see that. Can you see those little bits? That's broken color. Let me add some purple to this mix. A little bit of white. Oh yeah, so I have now kind of a plum color. And I'm using all these, of course, non-art colors because the color I'm looking at I'm not going to give you the recipe because I don't know what it is myself. But more than that, I just want you to have a rough idea. So this is, again, sort of a plum. Let's bring some of that. So again, I'm taking my best guess, since I right at the moment, I can't afford to take I can't afford the time or the money to go take a painting class with some big guru. Besides, frankly, I'll let you in on a little secret. Forgive me, this might sound a little arrogant. I don't think it is. It is not. My heart is not arrogant, but it is it's hard for me to take art classes, because when I take an art class, even though the teacher may be phenomenal, most of the students in the class are not quite at my level. But I know that sounds horrible. I hope you don't take it bad. But think about it for a minute. I am not struggling with what most students are struggling with. My struggles are kind of at a different level. So the teacher, even though he or she may be plenty capable of helping me, they can't help me much because they've got to take most of the class time to talk to where most of their students are at. And again, forgive me if that sounded offensive. I hope and pray that all of you will get to that same point in your career where it's hard to find classes because the teacher needs to communicate with the bulk of their class and leave you out in the cold. I hope you all get to that point. I hope you learn enough from me that you get so good, me and a number of other people, that you get so good that you have a harder time taking classes. Wouldn't that be a good problem to have? Make that your ambition, would you? So I'm kind of going around the color wheel now at the moment. I started with a raspberry, then went around to a plum. Now on to blueberries. Again, just introducing rather random color. Random is a key word here. Introducing quite random color. And again, I think this is one of my weaknesses. Even though my paintings are fairly colorful, I feel like, no, they're not fairly colorful enough. They could be more color. When I looked at the artists that, like Richard Schmid and so on, when I look at their paintings, I go, one of the things I see, now God only knows what I don't see, because I don't know what I don't see. This is me trying really hard to school myself. Okay, so I did some periwinkle blue was the last color. Now let's go around. Let's keep going around the color wheel now to a green. And so again, I'm looking for places that I can introduce really quite random colors. I have now here a dirty turquoise. Ooh. And by the way, I want to make this clear. How do I know where to put a dirty turquoise or any of these other colors? How do I know? The answer is there's already slight hints of this in the painting. There's areas where you wouldn't say that the corner of this building right here is turquoise, but in context compared to the rest of what's going on, yes, it has an ever so slight turquoise cast to it. Same thing. This steel pole that's holding up that superstructure has a slight turquoise-ish cast to it. So I come in here and I just exaggerate it slightly. Get it? I do that a lot already. I'm just forcing myself here with fresh awareness of what might be some of my weaknesses. And as I said, I think one of them is not enough broken color. Now, my favorite way to achieve broken color would in fact be to do it in the underpainting stage. So introduce more broken color than I already do. And most of you would say, man, you already do so much of that. And I say, yeah, I do. And I think I'm covering up too much of it in the subsequent layers. That was nice, by the way. That was nice, that little pale blue right there. And again, when an artist says that, they are not showing off or bragging. They're saying, wow, how did that happen? That was nice. I started to go green, then I came back to blue here for a minute. So let me go back to green, I think. Yes, because I need it, if nowhere else, I need it up here on this banner that's over the stage. It has the name of the park. Credit Union Midtown Park, it's called. And this is not so much broken color, what I'm doing right now. This is really just pushing the color and pushing the values. This green even goes from light to dark. It doesn't go from light to dark enough. So I'm lightening the lighter part of this banner. So I have even more of a graduate from light to dark, and actually light to dark that way too. That's better. Oh, you know what? One thing I should have done and I didn't do it is I'm up in these steel beams way up here in the sky. Broken color. Just you don't need an excuse. That is, you don't have to look for realism when you're doing broken color. That is not the point here. The point is not trying to be more realistic. The point is trying to make it a more interesting painting. And I see some purple up here in this steel I-beam. So I'm going to mix up some more purple. Yeah, oh my goodness. I'm happy to say my painting just got significantly better. Just got significantly better. And I'm going to add some blue to that. So I'm going to try to make a mental note and say here and say, okay, Nelson, in the weeks to come, let's try to get outside your comfort zone. Let's start trying to introduce more broken color into your paintings. And again, I would rather do it in the underpainting stage than just you're sort of artificially tacking it on late in the process. But better tack it on late than never. This painting is definitely improved simply by introducing more color. A great quote from Richard Schmid I was reading yesterday morning. I told you I was desperate, so I was studying his book. Painting is like going shopping for color with your rich dad's credit card. What a great description. Painting is going shopping for color with your rich dad's credit card. Way to go. What a great description. I love it. And so what I'm doing here is I'm having fun with color. And again, for some of you who are more tight than I am, you're going to get stuck at realism. Well, I don't see any, like right now I don't see any orange red in those beams. Like, okay, here's my photograph. Are you with me? And you say, I don't see any orange in there. I said, of course you don't see any orange in there. It is not our job to reproduce a lousy photograph. It's not my job to reproduce a lousy photograph. My job is to create a beautiful painting. Oh my goodness. Can you see that? Let me turn this off so you can maybe see it a little bit better. Let me check this out. Yeah, that's a little dark. You can see it a little bit, but it's definitely better than it was. Definitely. And it's asking me for a dot of red. In fact, right there. Oh my goodness. I don't want to just be one dot. That's usually not the best solution. Okay, so I'm this painting. Happy to say, now this doesn't solve my growing pains. This just completely. Although I am encouraged because I'm looking at this now going, okay, you're not so far gone, Dan Nelson. You're not so far gone that you can't improve a painting, if you put your mind to it. So that is a relief. That right there, just that is a relief. I'm anxious to get to new paintings, honestly, because most of the changes I want to make are not in these last touch-up stages. But the good news is, I did just transition this painting from a B minus, maybe even as bad as a C plus. I'm not trying to be humble. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just maybe a B plus. A B minus. I just transitioned it from a B minus to an A minus at least. I think. Fixed the values and added broken color. Well, B plus plus. I'm stuck now. I'm trying to hyper analyze. Doesn't matter. The fact is the painting looks better. And that's a really good thing. And by the way, there was never, in my mind, never any question that I don't think that my client wouldn't like the painting. I just hope now that they'll like it even better than they would have if I hadn't made these changes. Okay. I think people will have a fun time looking at this painting now. More than they would have the way it was a few minutes ago. All right, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to come back in a few minutes with my next mild problem child. With my next painting that I'm not entirely thrilled with. And invite you to help me fix that one as well. Hey, by the way, it goes without saying, if you think you know what my weaknesses are as a painter, I mean, you're going to have to be careful, not because I'll be offended, but because, you know. Anyway, if you think you know what my problems are, by all means, please tell me. I'm in a very particularly humble mood. Because I'm irritated with my own state as an artist right now. Okay. Pause there. Thanks for watching. Hey, Snapper Lee, sorry I missed your comment earlier. What happened was I just paused my broadcast to move to a new painting. Okay, can you see it there? New painting, problem child number 2. And in case you missed my introductory statement an hour ago, growing pains doesn't mean you have an occasional painting that doesn't go well. That happens to everybody. I'm talking about, for me, growing pains is when you get to a point where you're just not happy with your artwork. Now, some people live there all the time, and that's very unhealthy. That's not what I'm talking about. Again, go back and listen to the beginning of this broadcast. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in your journey, which is generally onward and upward, every once in a while you get to a point, and I'm hoping that it's right before, and usually it's right before you launch to a new level, where you're just not happy. And you have to get discontented just enough so that you're willing to make changes. That's where I'm at. But first of all, I have to finish 4 paintings that I've done in the last week, that none of which I'm terribly happy with. I just upgraded one and was quite happy with the progress. This is number 2. Let me tell you, before I turned on the video, before I started broadcasting, I've done a couple things because you didn't need to watch me necessarily. One was a compositional issue. This, hang on, take notes here. This is where there's a principle that I violated in this painting when I did it on Saturday on location, farmer's market. And the principle is called, by my friend Bob Rankin, it's called boundary ratios. How many shapes are along each edge, each boundary of your painting? When it comes to landscapes, there's one real simple mistake that's easy to make, and I made it here. You see, no building is punching through the top of this painting, right? And until a few minutes ago, I had this band of pale blue extended all the way across the top of the painting. Bad. That means a boundary number 1. One color, one shape, all the way across. Bad. So just before I brought you in, I enlarged this cloud right here and punched it through the top of the canvas. So now it's a better painting. Pure and simple. And if you want to go back to Saturday and look at how I left it on Saturday, you can compare it now if you want to do that much work. So now I have a boundary number of 1, 2, 3. 3 major shapes. A boundary ratio of 1 is almost always a mistake. So thank you, Bob Rankin. So I fixed that. The other thing I've done is exactly the same thing. Sorry, music's a little too loud. Is exactly the same thing I did to my last painting, which is I darkened with a blue-ish glaze, darkened much of this area, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, okay? And you'd already seen me do that once this morning, so I didn't need to repeat that. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and lift out some highlights. Usually when I glaze and darken, a whole area of a painting. Usually I come back and either lift out or paint on top of, or both. And today I'm definitely going to do both. That is lifting out with a rag and doing some light paint, coming back with light highlights. But there's a couple other things I want to talk about in this particular painting that I can improve. Again, my overall sense in my painting journey right now is that I'm too tight. Get that, would you? Not me, I'm preaching constantly about looseness. I'm always, and most of my students are way tighter than I am. But dang, that's what I think my problem is. I'm too tight. Whew. Not in the early stages. In fact, part of another way to this, for me, part of my journey struggle right here is I need to figure out a way to keep the energy that I achieve in the early stages of my painting process. In the beginning of every painting, I need to figure out a way to keep more of that energy showing. Okay, so I've helped, and the painting is somewhat better because this is now darker, so the painting's better. Let me do just one crazy little thing, minor thing, but I want to do it before I forget. And that is I want to highlight on this lamp. Not as if the lamp is shining in the sunlight, but as if the sunlight is shining on the lamp. While I've got some off-white on my brushes, then why not I just go ahead and take care of that. Hitting a little bit, so this is sort of like the counterpart to adding darkness to the canvas, right? Anytime you add dark to the canvas, that's the setup, that's the wind-up for the follow-through. The follow-through is you come back and add light to the canvas. So let's go ahead and just do that right now. So in a sense, I'm pushing the values. Okay, that might be enough. Let's put a little highlight on that cupola up there. There we go. Okay, now there's something about this painting there's irritating me, and I'm not sure what it is, but it has to do with the colors of these tints. I think it's the middle one. I'm just going to jump in here because I'm not sure what to do, and of course anything I do right now I can wipe it off if I so choose. But somehow I think that's a bad color combination going on there. I'm going to change this middle tint back into a white tint instead of this turquoise aqua colored tint. And of course I allow bits of the turquoise to show through. I don't want to lose the opportunity to have multiple layers showing up. Now, having done that, I think I might do the same color down here on this tint, which is also supposed to be a white tint. Maybe just the top of it, right? Okay, now back to this tint. Let's do the light side of it, the white side, the sunlit side. So mixing up just a warm white, quite a bit lighter than what's there. Again, not covering up everything that's there, letting the layers show through. Whew. Do I like that better or not? Well, before I wipe that off, I have a hunch. Let me fix this blue tint in the middle here. Um, Maybe they're all just too dark. So let me try keeping blue, but making it quite a bit lighter than it is. And of course, whenever possible, when you have a flat plane, when you're painting a flat plane in your subject, try to make it not flat. Try to make it go from dark to light or light to dark or something. You know what? I think I'm making progress. Excuse me. Woohoo! Bless me. Thank you. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Let me hit this painting, this tint, also with some white. I'm still not sure I'm doing all the right thing, but the painting is getting better. Now I feel like this surface right here is too dark. So maybe all of those tint roofs, I mean, of course, in real life, of course, they're very, very bright because they're made out of bright colored, nylon plastic, and the sun is hitting them from the left, of course. But let's see what happens if I lighten this one as well. Let me step back from this and look. Definitely better. Glad to report a little bit too much energy going on in some of this with all these, spots that I'm allowing to show through. So dial that back a little bit. Too much of a good thing. Yeah. I'm happy to say, yeah, the painting is better. So let me finish this just a little bit. Oh. I'm gonna actually wipe that off. That brush had some phthalo blue on it that wasn't mixed. And it didn't look good at all, I don't think. Just realized, I think I want this tint to fade from light to dark, the opposite of what some of these others are doing. Believe it or not, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be consistent. So there could be something else happening. Okay, now this side of this tint also. Pale green instead of pale orange. So again, if you missed my earlier part of this broadcast, again, not talking about my growing pains and wishing all of my artwork was better. That's a different subject, but just talking about problem children, paintings that just aren't working the way you'd like. I have a saying, if the drawing is correct, which frankly, for students, that's usually the problem, is a drawing problem. But if the drawing is correct, and the composition as far as you can tell, is correct, then 80% of the time it's a values problem. And that is to say, more specifically, there are not enough dark values. It's not dark enough. The darks aren't dark enough. And that is exactly what I just did on this painting as well. So the last two paintings, in fact, as I said, 80% of the time, that's a very unscientific number, by the way. That's just my rough estimate. 80% of the time, it's a values issue, values problem. Yeah, there we go. So that row of tents now works considerably better than it did just a few minutes ago. And in fact, now my painting is darker and lighter. Not much change up here other than that composition issue that I talked about a minute ago. Let me finish the roofs of these tents really quickly. And yeah, this up here should also be this. I'm lightening all the tents. Even this one that I thought was just fine, but now realize, nope, even it was too dark. Now the good news is about coming in and making this kind of change, that is lightening stuff, making stuff lighter. The good news is that we always enjoy seeing light paint on top of dark paint, and especially, of course, you want the darker paint to show through here and there, just like the orange underpainting up in the sky shows through here and there. That's what makes it charming. Same thing down here. You want bits of broken values, little bits of the dark stuff underneath shows through. Yahoo! So I'm happy to say that my painting is definitely better. So that's good. That's very good. Now let's change the subject slightly. And there is a very particular and not terribly surprising issue with this painting. When you have this many people, I do lots of paintings, of course, with crowds in them. Let me count just quick. There's one, no, none there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Some of them are mere smudges, but roughly speaking, 28 people. Of the 28, how many are prominent? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 definite figures. And again, if you haven't watched me do figures in landscapes, then that's another subject for another time. I do it by playing pictures in the clouds, looking for abstract, making a big mess, and then looking for shapes that look like people, and little by little by little they get refined and defined. The problem with that approach, of course, is that it leaves me susceptible to anatomical errors because I don't work them all out carefully ahead of time. And indeed, I have just a little bit of anatomical issues. The most prominent character in the whole painting is this one right here. And alas, she's one that has some issues. So I'm going to finish her orange hair there. And it's pretty subtle. I'm pretty close on her. Let me go ahead and fix where the problem is. It's this line right down here. In fact, I drew a pencil line when you weren't looking. Right here to try to correct it. This white mark right here used to be the edge of her hip, and her hip needs to come out further than that. I'm going to fix it right now. Same thing up here. This her lats, latimus dorsi, dorsimus, latimus, whatever. This muscle, muscle needs to come out further as well. Okay, so she's slightly more anatomically correct now. Same thing with down here on her hip. That needs to come out just a tiny bit. So little things like that. Again, that's the downside of painting in such a piecemeal fashion. It's real easy to end up with little anatomical irregularities. So again, just making that hip come up just a tiny bit further. When in doubt, scribble. Now let me look at that. See, I'm not sure that this is right even yet. I'm going to move it out another 1/8 of an inch. And again, make a mess. Give her a sleeves rolled up look. It says, after all, a farmer's market. Okay, I think that's okay. Now, a bit of an elbow right here, bonk, yeah. Bit of an elbow here, yeah. And I don't want to do too much in her legs because I just don't want a lot of attention. I want her figure essentially kind of fading out as you go down. You just don't pay much attention. But it can't look like a mistake. It has to look like it's anatomically correct. Same thing here. This is a man, I think, in shorts, a little bit of an elbow. The sun here. And this lady with a brownish red hair. Highlight on this man's hat, which, by the way, is over too far, so let's make a mark there to indicate. So again, what I'm doing now, this is drawing corrections, which of course I wouldn't need corrections if there wasn't a mistake. So I'm admitting to little anatomical errors, and there's like a certain degree of anatomical errors I feel like you can live with in a loose painting. But then there's a certain amount that you can't. And there was more going on here than I wanted to live with. So and this lady's satchel can use some modification. Here we go. Just about good enough, I think, in the figure improvements, corrections to the figures in the painting. Let's add a little bit of light blue to this guy. Okay, now I want to go back to correction improvement that I made in the last painting, and that had I I said I feel like, generally speaking, my paintings are too tight. Now, I can't really correct that. I don't think much, a little bit, but can't do much in the after editing, if I can make up that word, in this after editing part of the process. But one thing I can do is same thing I did in the last painting, which is broken color. So let's look for some excuses. I'm going to start with some warm stuff. Again, so I had sort of a peach color here, and I'm looking for places that where there already is a hint of this on the canvas somewhere, and I'm just going to push it, accentuate it, exaggerate it slightly. And again, this is the kind of thing that I am hoping now with my next several paintings to include this fresh sensitivity that I feel. Oh, I need more broken color. That I hope now to do it not in the after edit phase, but to do it while I am in the act of painting for the first time. Change this color slightly, warm it up, make it a little cooler. So I'm just looking for places where I can introduce sparkle, little bits of light. Not necessarily that's realistic. Not necessarily realistic. At the moment, this orange is really quite a safe broken color. Let me switch here to a dull brown it out a little bit. Also safe, even safer. But I see an opportunity for some more sunlight on the road down here.
You guys are here.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll be down in just a second. Okay, hello friends. I have company here. So I will continue this broadcast in a little while. Not so much. Hello, welcome back. I just noticed I missed a comment. I look forward to reading that later. I need to start what's it called? Super comments. That's not what it's called. Something else. Anyway, I need to start that, don't I? Okay, so my interruption is over. Back to where I was going just a little while ago, which was broken color. Introducing bits of, you could say, extraneous color. Color that is not necessarily realistic, but adds to the feeling of the painting. That's right. And I was doing, as I'm doing right now, I've got this lovely burnt orange color on my brush right now. And I'm mostly responding to areas where this color is already peeking through here and there, and just accentuating, adding to it a little bit. Now, let's swing around to the color red. So if I have an orange on my brushes, I can add some permanent rose, and I have a nice dark red. I don't know if you were with me a couple hours ago when I started this broadcast, I was talking about my very real dissatisfaction at the moment with my painting life, the way my paintings are looking right now. And of course, I don't. If I knew what was missing, I would fix it. So I don't know. I just have my best guesses at this point. But one of my guesses is that I don't have enough broken color. Now, I feel like what I'm doing right now is sort of easy. Cheater broken color, almost. Coming back at the very end of the process and just adding little bits of color here and there. That's fine as far as it goes, but it doesn't go very far, so to speak. What I really look forward to doing is incorporating more of this in the entire and early stages of the painting process. So I started with yellow orange, went around to orange, now to red. Now I'm going to continue around the color wheel, just adding little bits of color here and there. So I'm going to continue around now to a violet. Let me make sure that we're clear on some of our terminology. Broken color, traditionally, this is not unique to me by any means. Broken color means that you introduce, the most traditional is actually what I did in the last painting. You have a green tree, but the green has little touches of burgundy, red, brown, blue in it, all mixed in with the green of the foliage. What makes it broken color is the value. You're not introducing a light or a dark. That's broken value, which is also very important, but I feel like that I already do quite a bit. I already do quite a bit of broken value stuff. That's not my weakness. My weakness at the moment that I'm aware of is what I'm doing here. Not enough broken color. Okay, I think that's enough. It's easy to get carried away with this and do too much, partly because it's just so much fun. So let's get rid of the purple and continue around the color wheel. Now going to a purplish blue, which is ultramarine. So again, kind of a mid tone. It has a tiny bit of white in it, so it's not transparent. Now there's some places where a stroke of, like this, a stroke of ultramarine might be a nice color, but it wouldn't qualify as broken color because these people are already wearing blue shorts. Like this man right here has got a blue pant leg. That's barely broken color because it's already blue. Broken color is where there's something that's a very different color, like this tree up here, and I'm going to introduce, and this tree up here, I'm going to introduce some blue into it that is, again, the point being, it's not realistic, but our eyes get a kick out of it. We owe much of this understanding, by the way, to Claude Monet and the hardcore, the real impressionist painters. Okay, boy, I just added a lot of blue. The painting is coming alive, I'm happy to say. It's really is coming alive in a lot of fun ways. One of the other things that I'm doing here, I wasn't completely happy with this painting. It had a little bit too much pencil stuff in it. And so with these marks, I'm also diminishing the pencil lines, which I'm happy to do. Okay, now let's continue around the color wheel. I don't know if I need, I don't think, I'm going to skip phthalo, I think. I'm going to skip phthalo blue and go right around to green. But I need to be a sort of a mid-tone dark green, otherwise if I, again, the broken color is you don't violate the value. This is a dark, let's use a 0 to 10 value scale. If there's a color area that's a 5, then the broken color you put on there is also a 5. It's just a different color. Now, broken value is another concept, and that's actually a weakness. I think probably that more people have than the broken color. But I've already got quite a bit, I think. I'm very punchy with my broken values. Okay, now I've got green on my brushes. So you know that this stroke, those strokes right there are they are quite a bit lighter than what was there. So that could be almost considered a broken value. But what I'm trying to focus on right now today is this concept of introducing color. Yeah, so I am happy to say that the painting has a lot more life than it had just a few minutes ago. This man's shirt here has been painted so many so many times and so many different colors, but I like it. It's a completely nondescript color because it's a patchwork of a whole bunch of other colors. Oh, that's a good place for a green stroke. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to do a little bit of local color. These trees, these are supposed to be some trees peeking up over here, and they're barely visible. They have very little green in them, so I'm going to, this is not broken color exactly. Now, this is local color. Let's make the trees green. What a novel concept. Green trees. Who'd have thought? I'm standing back now and saying, yes, yes, yes. This is so much more interesting than it was. Now again, I'm not sure what I'm doing right now is broken color. Not really, it's local color. I just turned this tablecloth into a green tablecloth because there's a couple green tablecloths over here, and I feel like that's gonna just tie the paint together a little bit better. Okay, so I've gone all the way around from yellow orange all the way around the color wheel to green. Yeah, let's do just a little bit while I've got green on the brushes. Let's just do a little bit of lime green, so light green. So right now I have about a number 3 value on my brushes. That is, it's quite light. And I'm using this for value breaks right now, for little punches of light. See, that's the difference. A value break is either punches of dark or light. That's a value break. Color break is same value, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but a different color. And I could use this. See that right there? That's a values break. Okay, now I'm introducing a little bit more local color. Local is the word that artists use for realistic color. Roses are red, violets are blue, trees are green. So I'm right at the moment I'm doing some trees are green color. Yay. Much happier with the painting than I was just a little while ago. I'm going to do maybe one more thing, and that is I'm going to mix up a definite brown, broken color I would think, generally speaking, when you're doing broken color, excuse me, your nose is suddenly very itchy. I would think that when you're doing broken color, brown would be the last, gray, I guess, gray would be the last color you would use because it's not very intense, colorful. That's right. Not a high chroma thing, but I saw a few places in here where I thought I could really use a dark brown in there. Like right in here, in this darkest areas here. Let's punch just a little bit of subtle. Okay, now one of the things I'm afraid of is that after having done all that, my edges are just a little too many hard edges. But I'm going to let it go at that for this painting. I'm anxious to get working on my subsequent upcoming paintings and try to make them messier. My new quest in life, goal in life, be messier. But I am quite happy with the transformation that has taken place with this in just the last little while. Right there, all I'm doing there is just making a mess. Okay, and changing the color of this lady's shorts to brown. Okay, good enough. That one's ready for my signature. I'm going to take a little break here, and the next painting that I'm going to do, let me see, I'll pull it up here real quick. Oh yeah, this is Saturday. This was Saturday morning. This one is Saturday night. This one is not as fit. That's right. Hi, David Mercer. I'm sorry I missed your comment earlier. You're exactly right. That other one has the Thomas Kinkade sky, and this one does too. That's pretty funny. I did 2 Thomas Kinkade skies in one day. That's kind of scary, isn't it? I better watch out for that. I wish I had his skill. I tell you, there's no question. No question. I would do something slightly different with it, but that's my business, not his, and vice versa. So I'm finishing this. Some of you may have watched me do this Saturday evening. All these beautiful storm clouds came in and dumped on us repeatedly, I might add. So it was a good night, and it did finally stop raining. It had about an hour and a half break, an hour and a half where I couldn't paint because of the weather. But it did finally stop, and I was able to get a good bit of work done, which I'm glad for. This is a housewarming party on a rooftop patio overlooking what you can see here, downtown Raleigh. And I basically had to finish this building. That was the main thing. And I've done a glaze over the whole thing, lifted out. All this is today, and then lightened the sky down here. So I'm fairly happy with it. I think that I can come in here and add a little bit of life to the figures, not only with regard to their highlight colors, adding some bright color, which I do want to do, but perhaps even more so, adding just some energy lines and some broken color to the figures. So, and I'll do a little bit in the, in fact, let me put those brushes down. Let's do this right now. I'll do a little bit in the sky, in the trees as well, the middle distance here. I'm medium happy with the trees the way they are right now, but let's get them so I'm completely happy with them. I think they're dark enough. I think I've got plenty of dark in there. I think mostly I just need to come in with some various colors of highlight, various shades of highlight. So right now I've got a kind of a mid-tone pale green. That'll do for a bit. That's enough of that. I'm going to add some brown to that to make it a much browner green. This, I've been talking a lot today about broken color. It's one of the things that I feel like now, I feel like I can use more of in my painting is broken color. And one of the primary candidates, locations for broken color in any landscape painting is in green trees, in foliage. What at first looks like a bunch of green trees should, upon further investigation, more careful looking, turn into trees that have every color, so to speak, every color in the rainbow in them. Now you can take that, to various degrees of extremity. You can do it fairly realistically. In fact, I just mentioned Thomas Kinkade. I remember noticing in his paintings 25 years ago, when he first stormed onto the American popular art scene, noticing his banks of trees, a hillside, so to speak, a distant hill covered with trees, and the wide variety of color that he would incorporate into that bank of trees. One tree would be one color, the next tree another color, and so on. And it was very effective, very good trick of realism, if you will. And I've tried to keep that in mind often in the years since. So here I have on my brush a very dead, neutral, mid-tone brown on my brushes right now, because there's a good places for that color in this bank of trees. So from neutral brown, I can go in any direction without, let's go toward a yellowish brown. Kind of a sick split pea soup. More army green than army green. I don't want to get too speckled here. Spockadilly. I just about invented a new word, spockadilly. Watch out for spockadilly trees. So continuing to orange brown. Okay, I may be overdoing it, so let's back up a little bit. Having too much fun. There's a rule, one of the rules of painting, and I'm serious, it really is in my book as a rule of painting. If something is a lot of fun to do, be careful not to do too much of it. That's just human nature. The most classic is spattering. It's so much fun to spatter. Be careful not to do too much of it. Hey, while I'm on the subject, real quickly, just since I brought up spattering, unless you're in a painting competition where the painting has to be finished in this 2-hour period, and unless you're doing that, which is not what you're doing most of the time, if you do want to spatter your painting, I have a very, very strong word of recommendation, and that is that you wait until the paint, whether it's acrylic or oils. If it's oils, wait a day or two, whatever it takes, depending how much medium you put in that paint. Wait a day or two till your oil painting is dry, and then do the spattering. because just assume, first of all, just assume that your first spatter, maybe even your first 5 spatters, are not going to turn out very well. Because, of course, it's a spatter, right? It's a complete, not complete, but it's to a large extent a chance, a roll of the dice, so to speak, right? So you can, if the painting is dry, then you can spatter once. Oh, and by the way, again, just for what it's worth, I've taught this before, but I brought the spatter up, so I thought, well, let's make sure that you guys know how to do this. There's a right, this is the right way. You can break the rule and do it the wrong way if you want, but you know the rest of that sentence. Take the painting out in the front yard or backyard or somewhere, lay it down on the ground, and spatter it from a distance. But the main thing is, do it while the painting's dry. So you spatter it once, you go, not quite. So you take a rag, some Gamsol, whatever, and you wipe it off and you try it again. And you say, oh man, that's terrible. I really don't want that. I'm just play acting here with you, right? And so you wipe that off, and then you try it again. Third time, close, not quite. But I'm getting the hang of it now. I know how much paint to put on the brush. I'm getting more of a feeling about how to spatter, how hard to shake the brush, blah, 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 blah. And then you do it the 5th time, and you go, oh, mwah, to die for. Beautiful, beautiful. That's perfect, that's perfect. People will look at your painting and see that perfect splatter. They have no idea that was your 6th one. Does that make sense? So do that. Don't try to get it right the first time if you can help it. There you go. So some of you are wondering how those professional artists get their spatter to happen so perfect. Now you know the answer. Again, oh, by the way, this couple right here, the other night when I was at this housewarming party, late in the evening, several people said, oh, that's Wayne. They were pointing to Wayne right there. I had no idea that it was Wayne. So I decided to turn this into Wayne's wife. So thankfully I remembered what she was wearing, and so I have turned this into the host and hostess of the evening, which is a nice touch. So they're nice and prominent right there. So this is the 3rd painting I've rescued or finished. This one really needed more finishing than anything else. Not a lot of rescuing, thank goodness. Fixing a little bit of anatomy here and there. There. Just a hint, especially if there's a female in the painting, if there's a woman in the painting, just a hint of a tucked waist, a little pinch at the waist, and makes the female figure feel just a little more believable. Idealistic, perhaps, of course, but that's really what we're aiming for when we're painting loose figures, character figures, human beings. We're not looking for a realistic representation. We're looking for mannequins, really. That's a good way to put it. Because mannequins that are expressive in their gestures. As you can see, there was a lot of people they're either holding glasses or holding cell phones. I think she's got a cell phone and he's got a cell phone and he's got a cell phone. I'm kidding. But all the rest of these people are. It was a good food and drink kind of party. And when people are standing around talking to each other, holding on to something just gives them a little something to do. I think that's good enough. I think if I go much farther, I will be in trouble. I'm overdoing it. Beautiful planters all around this rooftop patio. All right, I think that's good enough. Finished. I'm going to sign it. Painting number 3 for the day is done. And I've got. Hello, Jake. Sorry, I missed your comments earlier. Okay, down to my last painting of the day. Yahoo! Last painting that needs to be fixed. This is number 4. Well, unless I just really get ambitious and go back to this one that I showed you at the beginning. This is one that I called a problem child painting. That would be number 5. That'd be a good productive day. I want you to see this painting before I turn my light on so you can see it. Oh, sorry, music's a little bit loud. I can't be violating copyright there. The music's just on, by the way, just loud enough to keep me from getting earworms. Song stuck in my head. This morning it was the theme song to Scooby-Doo. Think about it. Okay, there's the picture. Now I'm going to turn the light on, which will ruin it for you, but make it so I can work on it. And this is a painting that I'm quite happy with, but not happy enough, obviously, if I'm still working on it. Okay. This is the one that I'm planning to enter into Oil Painters of America. And so it's one that I've done recently that I particularly like. So I want to get it right if I can. Now there's a couple things that I'm not terribly happy with about this painting. Some that I can't do really anything about right now. It's too late. Again, it's a little bit tight. And again, some of you are saying, tight? You call that tight? Yeah, I do. I call it tight. The other is the figures down here. I worked them out. You can watch me work them out on my broadcast. I'm fairly happy with them, except that in the process of getting them worked out, they're a little bit overworked. And again, some of you are saying, what? Yes, overworked, a little bit tight. So I want to loosen them up a little bit. That's the main thing I want to change. The other thing is just based on sort of my new impression of my personal painting issues. If most of you missed my introductory comments at the beginning of this broadcast, I called it growing pains, and by that I'm referring to the sense that we all get occasionally, not the sense that we get when we're grumpy and discouraged. No. But the sense that we go like, I am so ready to step into, I wish it were a step. I'm so ready to scratch and claw my way in to a higher level of skill and proficiency. That's where I'm at. Forgive the grammar. That's where I am. There, Mama. In a way, I think we as artists, need to get desperate enough to make some changes, to take some risks. If we're still comfortable in our old tried and true ways of doing things, then we won't step up into something new. We won't go through the pain of trying something. I'm just trying to analyze here my own journey. And well, I am at one of those high levels of frustration. I really, really, really want to get better. everybody says they want to get better. Few people want to pay the price, which is risk. Now, by the way, it is true that when you're doing commission pieces, all three paintings that I've done so far today were in fact commissions. And it is true when you do commissions, you tend to tighten up because you don't want to take chances. You want to stay in the realm of the tried and true. You want to stay doing things that you know work. And that may be part of the problem that I'm feeling this frustration, because I just finished doing 3 paintings, all of which were commissions, all of which in a sense required that I play cautious. And then I'm not very happy with my work when I play cautious. So that's interesting. This one, on the other hand, was not a commission at all. This one is just a painting. I went out on the street a week ago. I forget now exactly when it was, a week and a half maybe. Just went up, sat downtown, set up my easel, started painting. And that's part of the reason perhaps why it turned out pretty good, because I wasn't under any artificial pressure of having to paint for somebody else. But I'm not, as you heard, I'm not completely satisfied with it either. And yesterday morning in particular, when I woke up just irritated by my lack of skill, came out and started reading Richard Schmid again. I showed this to you earlier for those of you who weren't here. Started reading this again, and by reading I don't mean I'm devouring it. I am dissecting it. I'm studying it like a student studying for a test. And in the course of that was reminded, oh yeah, you know what? Broken color. That is something I don't do enough of. And so while I'm talking here, I'm actually putting purple in my green tree. Why? Because I can. Why? Because we like to see, we get a kick out of seeing those little bits of misfit color. I already quoted one time this more earlier today, Richard Schmid, a quote of his in his that very book. He said, painting is like going shopping for color with your rich daddy's credit card. Shopping for color with your rich daddy's credit card. That is brilliant. That is what we're doing. We are just making color, man. Making color. And so I'm going to stop right there. I've done a little bit of broken color in the trees, and you could probably hardly see it. Let me zoom in here real quick. You see some purple there, dirty purple there. Again, you probably can't see it, but that's right. It's the reason you can't see it is because the values. If this is a number 8 value, the purple I just put in there is also a number 8. So I'm not doing broken values right now. I'm doing broken color. Same value, same degree of lightness, darkness, right? Same value scale, same value number, 0 through 10, but different color in that value. Okay, let me zoom in before I do anything else. Actually, here's a conundrum. Here's a funny puzzle. I said to you several times today that I think one of the categorical problems with my painting, the way it is right now, is I am too tight. And here I am pulling out a finished painting, ostensibly finished. It's not finished till it's sold, by the way, or entered into a competition, one or the other. And so here I am pulling out a finished painting, and I'm going to do more painting on it. It is in the act of continuing to paint, the paintings tend to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Right? You tend to overdo it by going too far with it. So ask me if that fact is strongly etched in my mind, and I'm going to say, yeah, I think it is. I think it is. The very reason that I am pulling out this painting, the main reason, is in fact to loosen it up, not to tighten it up. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm mixing up, trying to match this young man's, I think it's a young man, the color of his shirt. Whatever color it is, I don't care. It's a dull buff tan something. Maybe one tick lighter. Yeah, perfect. Let me zoom in here so you can see a little bit. Here, let me pick you up just for a minute. Let me get a pointer here. Hang on. There you go. So do you see this little light streak that goes off here? I just made that. Do you see all this dirt? This white speckle stuff? I just made that. So those are, I just messed up his shoulders that much. I may not be done, but that's the kind of thing pretty much that I'm talking about. That is, and that's the kind of subtlety I'm talking about. He was just a little too tight. So I am messing him up. Maybe also the back of this sleeve. The other thing I'm going to do is maybe punch the values just a tiny bit. If I only punch the values, that is a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. Push the values. If I only do that, the painting will in fact get tighter. But if I can combine the pushing the values along with messiness, like I just showed you, then I'll be okay. Mix up a tiny bit of something like flesh tone. Yeah. I used quite a bit of pencil in the act of rendering these characters, and when I came back, a day or two later and looked at them with fresh eyes, I said, nah, a little bit too much pencil. So in fact, that is also one of the things I'm doing right now, is taking out just a little bit, very subtle, but just a little bit of that pencil stuff. Okay, I'm going to mix up some dull pale blue and do some on the front of this man's trousers, and then it escapes again, intentionally going outside the lines. By the way, when you're painting figures like this, and when you give, I know this already, so it's like, why didn't I do it? Well, who knows? But when you give figures soft edges, very soft edges, it suggests movement. And that's good, because these people are all in positions of moving. They're clearly walking across this street. They're also clearly jaywalking, in case you missed that conversation, because they are not in the crosswalk, they're just outside of it. Okay, I think, okay, I've got to get his butt cheek just in the right place. And how about a suggestion of a pocket? Good enough. Okay, I'm gonna, for the moment, I'm gonna call that man done. I think. Wait. Nope. There, I added more noise, more jitter. That's a good word. More jitter outside his pant leg. I took that blue color highlight from his pant leg and just did a line over here, more roughly parallel to the outside of his leg. I like that better. So he is now messier. Still not happy with his butt. Hang on. Of course, sometimes when you do that, flick the brush thing, sometimes you get more than you wanted. Often you do. The good news is, though, after having done too much, it's usually pretty easy to come back and minimize it, diminish. That was a nice mark. There we go. There's actually a little mark right there that's kind of hard edged, but it's random, so it feels messy on the figure, which is good. Okay, I'm just going to keep using these brushes. Let's move right on over to the next guy. Once again, I'm trying to mix up a dull flesh tone, dull brown, very, very dirty and pale, though, flesh tone. Okay, want it to be slightly lighter, perhaps, than what's already there. Let's check. And this arm right here is not bad. It could actually use a bit of a highlight on top of it. Now, I'm assuming you can see that. I just tightened up that arm quite a bit, which would be, I'm not trying to tighten stuff up here, I'm trying to loosen it, right? So I just added some more jitter. I just added the same color above his arm and above his arm twice. Again, I'm talking out loud because I'm trying to help myself get this right. I like that. I think I like that because it definitely looks like, now I'm going to come over to this guy. I like the color I've got on my brush right now. There we go. Did you see that? I think that's nice. I did a definitive mark. It was right in the right place, and I simply smeared it. I'm going to pick you up again, so hopefully you can see this. Maybe this will be instructive for some of you. There, do you see his arm? You can clearly see. First of all, I put a mark that was very accurate for his forearm and very definitive. Then while I was at it, before I picked up the brush, I just went up and to the left. The surprising thing is that the definition that I put down before I smeared it still appears. I still have the definition. And again, some of you, of course, most of you are saying, that's too messy. And I'm going, nah, I don't think so. I might be wrong, but I don't think it is too messy. Okay, back to the other guy I was working on. Same thing. Did his cheek and then smeared it over. Did his nose. And by the way, what I just showed you on this man's arm with that swoosh going that way, it really adds to the illusion that man's arm is moving. Like it's swinging one way or the other. Doesn't really matter, and I'm not sure if it means it's going that way or that way. Not terribly happy with what I just did to this guy's face. Let me try it again. Okay, I think that's all right. Tell you what, while I've got this flesh tone though, let me go ahead and tackle the woman here. I do like the color. It's a very dead flesh color, very, very neutral. It's like, I can tell you, it's like a dark real estate beige. Some of you might know that expression. When you're selling your house, you're theoretically, at least in America, at this season of our history, if you want to sell your house, again, for top dollar, you go through and you paint the entire house realtor beige. Neutral, because people don't want to buy a house that's the color that you like. They want to buy a house that's neutral so they can paint it whatever they want. Same thing, defined. I defined this woman's arm. Then I came back and did a parallel mark outside the boundary, and again outside the boundary. Jitter. It's a good word. Does that come from, what does that come from? Computers, is that computer talk or photography talk? I can't read. I think of it as photography term. Been any very convenient to me at the moment. Let's move on to these people's clothing. Very completely neutral gray, very dull blue, slightly lighter blue, dark black gray, and again the same color. I am wondering if I should introduce a tiny bit of color to these figures. Be that as it may, one thing I want to do is I want to add some jitter to this man's sleeve. It's just a little too clean. That edge is a little too sharp, a little too crisp. I think that's all right. Now, at the same time, of course, we artists are doing all this nondescript stuff. At the same time, we want our figures to be anatomically correct. There's the rub. Jitter, 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 fuzz, fuzz, fuzz. And yet, oh yeah, correct. Oh, what are you talking about? Oh my goodness. And again, this is a great example of what I'm doing right here, all this stuff. Great example in my mind of why realism is easier. And I do realism, but I do think it's easier because you just have to copy. I don't think the judgments that you're making are much. Now, it takes longer. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely takes longer. Although I will say, as long as I spent on this painting, longer than average. It takes longer to do realism, but it's not difficult. It just takes time. Okay, I am definitely happier with these people being messier. Let me go back and revisit the last question I brought up. Right now, as you can see, blue, tan, blue, gray, blue, gray, blue, gray, blue, gray. They're very, very monochromatic. Let me turn this light off so you can see the real colors a little bit better. Yeah, it's just about that dark in real life. Do I want any color down here at all? I'm thinking about maybe a slight tint of red in the woman's blouse or shirt. Or just some broken color. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. Now, let me introduce again. Broken color means the same value, the same degree of light or dark, the same lightness, darkness as what's already there, but a different color. So let's go, for instance, back to this man's shirt. I have a very dull lavender on my brush. Oh, by the way, what I just did there was not broken color because it did not match what was already there. And these figures, in my opinion, get appropriately even more obscure as we go down. I really care very little about their feet. I don't want people looking at their feet. Now I'm mixing up in a very dirty plum color, purplish, kind of very dull plum. I'm thinking that might be a good thing to introduce into this woman's skirt. Yeah, yeah. Just a hint, barest hint of color. Okay? Whew boy. If it sounds like I'm working hard, that would be the correct sound. That would be correct. I am. I am working hard. This is the most difficult part of this painting. You can almost say the most difficult part of any painting is going to be the figures. Landscape painting is going to be the figures that you put in it. I'm now mixing up a very dull green because I'm thinking, yeah, oh, why didn't I do this before? Again, that is so subtle. I'm sorry, you guys probably can't even see it. But now his shirt is blue, tint of blue, tint of green, tint of purple. Yeah. Now I think I'm going to do a darker green and try to work it into his slacks. Please understand, when I say dark green and slacks, I'm not trying to indicate that the man is wearing green slacks. Quite the contrary. I'm trying to introduce the reality of broken color. When you're doing broken color, again, I've said it, but let me say it again. When you're doing broken color, realism is not your concern. I'm not like and I like that. I'm not doing green in this guy's slacks because I want to suggest that he's wearing green slacks. It's simply a little color vacation that your eyes get to take, a little color excursion. And again, it's one of the things that I feel like have been a little bit weak in. So time will tell, if this weekend, the weekend of August 11-12, 2018, will it be a dividing line in my career where I start introducing more color breaks? One of the teachers that I know of, and again, this is not unique, I don't think, to anybody. I think this is, it's more Monet than anybody. But again, I've got dirty green on, dull pale green, and yeah, that really helped on that windshield. Just that little introduction of color. Now, let me just define my terms here. I did green here. That's a color break. But then the same thing on my brush came down here to the light there. That is not a color break. That's a values break. That little spot of color, you see? Same color as this. But up here, the context is the same value as what I'm putting down. So it's same value, color break. Down here, brighter. So it's a values break. I was going to say Phil Starks, whom I have never met. But I almost feel like I know his teaching, because my good friend David Foster studied with Phil Starks for a long time, and David Foster would come to our painters group for a long time and quote Phil Starks. Man, that is one of the best things. Thanks, Cryptus. Appreciate it. Thank you. It certainly, I hope you can too, my friend. It is all, art is not all about the color. But what I'm doing, right now is definitely all about the color. And now I have to be careful here because I'm on the verge of having too much fun doing this with this dull pale green. I'm finding it looks good in a lot of places. So if something is a lot of fun, this is a real rule of painting. I say it in biblical, old-fashioned, be ye careful. Be ye careful. Because if it's a lot of fun, you might be overdoing it. Correct. And forgive me, guys. I know I'm missing all kinds of chat comments today. I'm sorry. I will very much look forward to reading them all later. Unfortunately, I can't respond to them because the system doesn't allow me to do that. Pretty soon, actually, I'm probably going to start using, is it called Super Chat, I think? And that will be a lot more fun. Okay, now I'm trying to mix up a dark, dirty peach. How about that? And I'm going to introduce some color breaks into this woman. Yeah. Yeah. Subtle, subtle. Our eyes just love subtle, folks. I mean, oh man, I wish somebody had taught me that 30, 40 years ago. I promise I would have learned it. So please take advantage of my tutelage if you want. Our eyes love subtlety. Given the alternative, another way to put it, I put it in a strange way. Given the alternative, our eyes would rather yes see than no see. Yeah, they'd rather see stuff than not see the stuff. Okay, color breaks. And some of this, okay, that's not a color break, that's a values break, as is that. I'm introducing red reflection off stuff here and there. Here's a color break. Same value that's already there, just introducing red to it. Now that's a violation because it's slightly darker than what's there. Slightly darker. So now I need to come back and fix that. Anytime you put down a paint that's slightly darker than what's underneath it, you just need to come back, watch, and do a mark adjacent to that that's lighter again, and then all is well. That's too much. And you mess that up. Okay, good. I like the mess up. More mess up. More mess up. I might be done with this painting. Let me do maybe just one more thing. I'm not promising it's one more. As soon as I start saying one more thing, I can be doing that for another 45 minutes. So let me try to be careful here. I'm trying to mix up a very pale yellow, very warm white, to come in here and do even more glow back here than I had previously. And a little bit lighter. Yeah, I like that all right, but it needs to be whiter yet. Not quite so yellow. So come back and do some more on top of it. Yeah. Yeah, sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Even messier than it was. Even messier than it was. And now I wonder if this sky up here is, what have I got on my brushes? Slightly yellower than what's there, and slightly lighter, but it can be lighter still. So let me do that again. Well, now that I've done that, me wonders, should I also lighten up those clouds? These clouds right here.
I have, whoops, sorry, went off. Sorry about that. Here we go, I'm back.
So I've just lightened this way down, distant clear sky, and then having done so, discerned that I think these clouds could be even slightly brighter than they are, slightly lighter than they are. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe I am done with this painting. I messed up my figures. I introduced a little bit of secondary broken color through the trees, messed up the figures a little bit, and it got them more accurate and more messy. And then ended up doing a little bit of an explosion of glow down here. There we go. Okay, are we done? I think we are. It's already signed. I'm going to call that a day. Again, I'll turn this off for a minute so you can see it in a better light. There we go. So we'll see. I'm going to try to enter this into a show. We'll see. I have no idea. You dare not hold your breath ever. I'm entering two paintings into Old Paintings America. They're both cityscapes. They're both